It is May 4, 2026. And I want you to just picture the dressing room of Real Madrid right now.
Oh, man. It's got to be grim in there.
Seriously grim.
Yeah.
I mean, you are looking at unequivocally the most glamorous, demanding, heavily scrutinized football club on the face of the earth.
Right. The absolute pinnacle.
Exactly. And right now, their starting lineup looks like a triage unit. I mean, they are missing a slew of critical starters for a must-win late-season clash.
Just a devastating injury crisis.
Right. So, Kylian Mbappé, he's out with a hamstring tear.
Yeah.
Thibaut Courtois, out. Eder Militão, injured.
And Arda Güler, too, right?
Yep, Güler's injured. Dani Carvajal is a massive fitness doubt. It's just bad.
It's the kind of apocalyptic injury list that honestly usually gives a manager an ironclad excuse to drop points. You know, just right off a match before a ball is even kicked.
Yeah, you completely expect them to drop points. But here is the crazy part. They play Espanyol, and they win.
2-0.
2-0. Vinicius Jr. just steps up, puts the team on his back, and scores twice. Yeah, they grind out this vital result while missing, like, half their Galactic Armada. But now we have to cut to our second scene.
This is where it gets really messy.
Oh, it's so messy. So while his teammates are sweating it out on the pitch in a desperate physical chase for the La Liga title, Kylian Mbappé,
the 200 million euro man.
right, the captain of France, the biggest free transfer in the history of the sport, he is not in the stands cheering them on.
No, definitely not.
He is photographed dining at a luxury restaurant in Sardinia
Unbelievable.
with a Spanish actress, Esther Exposito, just living his absolute best life while his team grinds out the season on life support.
The optics are just terrible.
And this right here sets up the ultimate paradox that we are unpacking today. Because since arriving at Real Madrid in the summer of 2024, Kylian Mbappé has scored 83 goals in 97 games.
Which is, I mean, a statistical triumph by any normal metric.
A total statistical triumph. And this is a massive, but Real Madrid has won absolute 0 trophies in that time.
Nothing.
Nothing in the 2024-25 season. And they are staring down the barrel of a second straight 0 here in 2025-26.
Which is almost unthinkable for a club of that stature, you know, especially with a squad of that cost.
It makes no sense. So today we are taking a deep dive into an exclusive, highly detailed May 2026 research dossier to solve the Mbappé paradox.
And this dossier is loaded.
Oh, it's incredible. We have the granular stats, the tactical breakdowns, a literal graveyard of managerial casualties, and the looming shadow of the 2026 World Cup.
Because that World Cup changes everything.
Exactly. Our mission is to figure out how a team possessing the world's best attacker has actually gotten demonstrably worse. And what this staggering reality means for the biggest sporting tournament on Earth.
It really is a fascinating case study. It shows how individual brilliance does not automatically synthesize into collective success.
Right.
In fact, under certain structural conditions, that brilliance actively cannibalizes the team.
Cannibalizes the team. Man, that's... Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the immediate crisis. Because the optics of this Sardinia trip are dominating the Spanish media cycle.
Yeah, you can't escape it.
Let's get the medical facts straight first. Mbappé was forced off during Madrid's 1-1 draw with Real Betis. The diagnosis is a semi-tendinosus muscle tear in his left leg.
Right, which is one of the 3 hamstring muscles.
So it's serious.
Oh, yeah. It's a significant soft tissue injury. You cannot simply strap up a torn semi-tendinosis and play through it, especially not for a player like him whose entire game relies on explosive, fast-twitch acceleration.
Right, he needs that burst. So because this torn hamstring, he misses the matchday 34 fixture against Espanyol, which, like we said, Madrid manages to win.
Right.
But more importantly, the dossier notes he is now highly doubtful for the crucial May 10th clash, El Clásico.
Against Barcelona at the Spotify Camp Nou.
Yeah. And we need to look at the La Liga table to understand the stakes of that specific match. As of early May 2026, Real Madrid trailed Barcelona by 11 points.
11 points is a mountain.
And there are only 4 games left in the season.
Yeah. Trailing by 11 points with 4 games left means Madrid needs to win out and hope Barcelona inexplicably collapses.
Right.
I mean, it is mathematically possible, but practically absurd. The league title is basically gone.
It's gone. But it's El Clásico.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You don't just write off El Clásico.
Ever.
It's the rivalry. It's pride. It's stopping Barcelona from essentially parading the trophy in front of your face.
Exactly. Even if the league is functionally over, the expectation is that a player of Mbappe's stature is doing everything humanly possible to be on that pitch.
or at least in the facility supporting the squad, right?
Exactly. That is the baseline expectation for a talisman. You suffer with the collective.
Which brings us back to the viral footage.
Yeah.
While injured, the dossier confirms Mbappé traveled first to Paris and then down to Cagliari, Sardinia.
Yeah.
On May 1st, Sky Sport Italia cameras capture him dining at Lo Scoglio, which the dossier notes has been operating since 1958.
A very famous spot.
Yeah. The images drop online, and the Real Madrid fan base absolutely erupts. The trending sentiment on social media is, quote, he doesn't care about the club.
And you can see why they'd feel that way.
For sure. Now, technically, according to the letter of the law, he broke no rules.
Right. The club's official stance was a staunch defense.
Delivered by manager Alvaro Arbeloa. He stated that all planning regarding injured players is overseen by the medical staff, who determine when they need to be at Valdebebas.
So in his free time, Mbappé can do whatever he sees fit.
Yeah, that's the official line.
Yeah.
But what I found fascinating, the BIN Sports report, isn't just the club's public defense, it's the private irritation.
The behind-the-scenes stuff.
Exactly. And crucially, the locker room's reaction. There's a glaring double standard being reported.
And that double standard is the most toxic element you can introduce into a high-performance environment.
It really is.
BIN Sports noted that Madrid officials were privately highly irritated by the public exposure, but the real damage is internal.
Between the players.
Yeah. Within the squad, players feel there is a different set of rules for different footballers during injury periods.
Right. If a squad rotation player, or like an academy graduate, pulls this Sardinia stunt while the team is 11 points back, they are fined.
Or benched permanently.
Exactly. When Mbappé does it, the manager issues a public defense.
Which is wild.
You cannot maintain a high-pressing tactical system built on mutual suffering when the players know the accountability rules only apply to the bottom 90% of the roster.
You really can't. Goodwill in football is a highly volatile currency.
Oh, for sure.
It's entirely dictated by results. When you are winning the Champions League, a trip to Sardinia is framed by the media as, essential recovery.
He's recharging his batteries.
Exactly. But when you are down 11 points to your arch rivals, staring at a trophyless season, that exact same plate of pasta transforms into a betrayal.
It breaches the unwritten social contract of a team environment.
Perfectly said.
But the fans' anger over Sardinia is really just a symptom. The vacation is the spark, but the actual dynamite is what happens when he steps onto the pitch.
Yeah, the tactical stuff.
We need to look at the sheer, overwhelming volume of the individual statistics versus the team's output, because it creates a massive cognitive dissonance.
It really does.
In all competitions for the 2025-26 season, Mbappé has 39 goals. That is second only to Harry Kane at Bayern Munich among Europe's top 5 leagues.
Right.
In La Liga alone, he has 24 goals, making him the leading scorer in Spain.
So, looking at those numbers in a vacuum, you would assume Real Madrid is having a historic season.
You would.
I mean, 39 goals from a single forward usually guarantees silverware.
But then the dossier breaks down his XG expected goals, and it is a wild roller coaster.
Oh, the XG data is fascinating.
In the first half of the season, from August to December 2025, he scored 11 goals in 18 La Liga games, but his XG was 13.7.
So he was significantly underperforming his expected output.
Yeah. He was getting the chances, but missing more than the statistical model predicts.
Right.
Then we hit the second half surge, January to late February 2026. He scores 11 goals in just 10 La Liga games. He was massively overperforming his XG.
He was on fire.
But then the roller coaster plunges again right before this hamstring injury. He hits a brutal form slump. 1 single goal in his last 7 club outings.
That's rough.
And the most shocking stat from Diario AS, his shot conversion rate plummeted from an elite 25% down to just 4%.
Wait, 4%? That conversion rate drop is the statistical smoking gun.
It's crazy.
A 4% conversion rate means you're taking 25 shots just to score 1 goal.
25 shots?
Yeah. That signifies a player who's forcing the issue, taking extremely low percentage shots from outside the box or poor angles.
And why is he taking poor angles?
Because he is frustrated. And because the tactical geometry of the team is fundamentally broken.
Which brings us to the TNT Sports expert quote from April 28th. The analyst was talking about the holy trinity of Madrid's attack. Kylian Mbappé, Vinicius Jr., and Jude Bellingham.
3 of the most expensive, talented players on the planet.
Exactly. And the analyst stated, quote, none of those 3 players, top players, world-class players, have been at their best when playing with the other 2. So it's a massive conundrum.
It's a huge problem.
Let's break down the mechanics of this conundrum. Why can't you just put the three best players on the field and let them figure it out?
Well, because football is a spatial game, and
Yeah.
they all want to occupy the exact same real estate.
Okay, so how does that work?
Let's look at the mechanisms. Both Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. are devastating when operating in the left half space.
Right.
They both want to drive inside from the left wing onto their dominant right foot. But there's only one left wing.
Yeah, you can't clone the left wing.
Exactly. So if Vinicius occupies it to isolate the fullback, Mbappe is forced to play centrally as a traditional number 9.
And we know he notoriously dislikes playing as a traditional 9. But, why does he sail there? He's so talented.
Because a traditional number 9 needs to play with their back to the goal. They need to physically pin the opposition center backs, hold up the play, and create space for the wingers and midfielders to run into.
And that's not his game.
Not at all. Mbappe doesn't want to play with his back to the goal. He wants to receive the ball on the half turn, facing the defense, so he can accelerate.
Right. He wants to use his speed.
Exactly. So to do that, he drops deep, out of the striker position, right into the midfield pockets.
And right into Jude Bellingham's lap.
Yes.
This completely explains the traffic jam. Because Bellingham was a revelation his first season, because he was arriving late into the penalty box as a goal-scoring midfielder.
He was everywhere.
But if Mbappe is constantly dropping deep into those exact pockets of space to get on the ball, Bellingham's late runs are completely neutralized. The box is clogged.
Yep. Bellingham is forced deeper, away from the goal, turning him into a traditional, less effective playmaker.
Which is such a waste. He even muttered, "It's a joke," to the press after their Champions League exit against Bayern Munich.
I remember that.
Yeah. While officially referring to a red card for Camavinga, the underlying frustration with the structural dysfunction is clearly boiling over.
I mean, you have 3 world-class players structurally suffocating each other. And compounding this geometric nightmare is the defensive work rate.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The podcast quote.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
The dossier includes a quote from Mbappé himself, speaking on the Bridge podcast, during the March 2026 international break. He literally admitted, on mic, to the world, "I'm a player who defends a little less than others. It's true that I do it less."
Just said it out loud.
I read that, and my brain instantly went to motorsport. It is the sporting equivalent of a Formula One driver sitting down for an interview and casually stating, "I'm a driver who uses the brakes a little less than the others."
That's a great analogy.
Right. Sure, you might go incredibly fast in a straight line, but the moment you hit a corner, you are going to put the car into a wall.
Exactly. You're going to crash.
You cannot build a cohesive, modern football team around a structural linchpin who publicly refuses to hit the brakes and press out of possession.
You fundamentally cannot. Modern elite football, the kind that wins the Champions League, demands 11 players pressing as a synchronized unit.
Right.
It's a cohesive mechanism. If one player is walking while the opponents have the ball, elite teams will simply bypass your midfield and overload your defense.
Because they have an extra man.
Exactly. The midfield has to run twice as hard to cover the passing lanes the forward left open, which leads to physical exhaustion and late-game collapses.
And the dossier provides the ultimate empirical evidence that this isn't just, a theoretical debate.
Right. The data backs it up.
Do you know what Real Madrid's best run of form was this entire season?
It's pretty telling.
It was late February through late March 2026, when Mbappé was out with a knee sprain.
Yep.
Manager Alvaro Arbeloa was forced to change the system. He switched to a classic 4-4-2. He put Vinicius and Brahim Diaz up top, no Mbappé. And what happened? Real Madrid won 6 of their 7 fixtures.
They looked great.
And they didn't just beat relegation fodder. During that stretch, without their €200 million man, they beat Benfica and they beat Manchester City.
Wow.
They beat Pep Guardiola's Manchester City by playing a cohesive, hard-working 4-4-2.
The mechanism of that success is crucial to understand. Without Mbappé demanding the ball to feet, Vinicius was free to operate in his preferred zones without second-guessing his spacing.
Right, the traffic jam was gone.
Exactly. And Brahim Diaz did the tactical pressing that Mbappé refuses to do. The midfield wasn't exhausted from covering empty shadows. They functioned as a cohesive unit.
And then Mbappe's knee heals, he comes back, Arbeloa reverts the tactics to the Galactical model to accommodate him, and Madrid's result.
Oh, this part hurts.
They grab exactly 1 point from their next 2 La Liga games. The offense completely crashes.
It's just night and day, and the dossier perfectly links this to his tenure at Paris Saint-Germain through a brilliant piece of analysis from Goal.com.
Oh, the PSG parallel is so good.
Right. PSG threw billions at their project, paired Mbappé with Neymar and Messi, and repeatedly failed in Europe.
Every single year.
And the analysis points out it is no coincidence that PSG didn't win their first Champions League crown until after Mbappé departed.
That is a staggering indictment.
It really is. The mechanics of it are identical to what we were seeing in Madrid. At PSG, he made them utterly one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Every attack was funneled through him. The opposition knew it and planned for it. And because he didn't press defensively, the rest of the team was constantly compromised.
So what happened when he left?
The moment he left for Madrid, Luis Enrique turned PSG into a functioning, multi-dimensional team where all 11 players contributed to both phases of play.
Wow.
Real Madrid is living out the exact same narrative arc. The individual stats say he's brilliant. The league table and the team's fluidity when he's injured prove he is a systemic bottleneck.
A systemic bottleneck. Well, when a $200 million asset refuses to adapt to a tactical system, the board isn't going to bench the asset.
Oh, definitely not.
They're going to fire the architect. And that forces us to look at the collateral damage on the touchline.
The poor managers.
The managerial casualty list in this dossier reads like a tragedy in 3 acts. Let's walk through the collateral damage of the Mbappé paradox, starting with Act 1, Carlo Ancelotti.
Right. Ancelotti won the Champions League with Real Madrid in the 2023-24 season.
Madrid's last major trophy.
Yep, the season right before Mbappé arrived.
Ancelotti is widely considered the greatest man-manager of elite egos in football history.
He's a diplomat.
Exactly. He tries to fit the Galactico puzzle pieces together in the summer of 2024, and he fails. The dossier states he could not integrate Mbappé into the team without suffocating Vinicius.
They tried various tactical tweaks, but Vinicius's production just cratered.
The locker room vibes evaporated, and Ancelotti ultimately departs after a completely trophyless 2024-25 season.
And Ancelotti's failure is highly instructive here.
How so?
Well, if a manager whose entire historical superpower is accommodating massive egos without rigid tactical dogma cannot make the geometry work,
Right.
it should have been a screaming siren to the Madrid board that the problem was structural, not managerial.
But the board doubled down. They decided the problem wasn't the players. It was a lack of modern tactical instruction. Enter Act 2, Xabi Alonso.
Appointed in the summer of 2025.
This was the visionary hire. He was coming off an invincible season in the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen. He was the hottest tactical commodity in world football.
But he wasn't a diplomat. He was a strict systems architect.
Right.
Alonso attempted to implement a highly structured surgical system. He recognized the traffic jam on the left and initially tried building the attack around the young Turkish talent Arda Güler, acting as the primary feeder to Mbappé.
And for a brief moment, it works.
Yeah.
The results are good early on, but you cannot bench egos forever in Madrid.
No, eventually they demand to play.
Bellingham needs to be reintegrated. The system gets bogged down. The precise passing networks Alonso demands start stagnating.
The players just stop buying in.
Exactly. The tactician reportedly starts clashing heavily with the key players over their positional indiscipline. And then comes the breaking point. January 12th, 2026.
The Supercopa de España final.
Against Barcelona. Madrid loses 3-2. And the very next morning, January 13th, Xabi Alonso is sacked. His total tenure. Roughly 6 months.
6 months. It's crazy.
She was crazy.
The board chose the players over the manager, which they almost always do in the Galactico model.
Yeah.
It highlights how utterly toxic the tactical environment had become. The players wouldn't adapt to a system, and the system couldn't accommodate their preferred habits.
There is a detail in the dossier that is just incredibly dark humor.
Oh, about the restaurant.
Yes. Remember the restaurant in Sardinia where Mbappé was photographed eating his pasta? Luscolio?
Yeah.
Dossier notes. The venue has been operating since 1958. It has now survived longer than Xabi Alonso's tenure as Real Madrid head coach.
Wow. It puts the sheer chaos of his reign into a rather harsh perspective.
It's brutal. So Ancelotti the diplomat fails. Alonso the tactician fails. We are now in January 2026, halfway through the season.
And the board is panicking.
They are desperate. They need a body in the seat. Act 3. Alvaro Arbeloa. The ultimate stopgap. He was managing Real Madrid Castilla, the reserve team.
Right.
They promote him directly to the first team. Now let's look at the sheer nightmare of his debut. You are Alvaro Arbeloa. You get the biggest job in world football.
A dream come true.
The very next day, January 14th, you have your first competitive game. It's the round of 16 in the Copa del Rey. You're playing Albacete.
And we should clarify, Albacete was founded in 1940. At the time of this match, they were sitting 17th in Spain's second division.
They are fighting relegation from the minor leagues.
Exactly.
Arbeloa, looking at the fixture congestion, rests his stars. Mbappé, Bellingham, Courtois, Rodriguez, they all get the night off. And Real Madrid loses 3-2 to Albacete.
Just a historic disaster.
It is the first time in history Albacete has ever beaten Real Madrid in any competition. Madrid's captain, Dani Carvajal, a man who has won everything there is to win in the sport, was subbed on late in the game.
Yeah.
And he had to watch from the pitch as a second division relegation candidate scored the winner against Real Madrid.
Humiliating.
Half the Spanish press was calling for Arbeloa's head the next morning, and he hadn't even had time to conduct a proper training session.
The Albacete disaster perfectly encapsulates the systemic rot, though.
How so?
You have three fundamentally different football minds failing. The problem isn't the software, the manager's tactics, it's the hardware. The squad construction is fundamentally incompatible with winning football.
And the players are fully aware of the power vacuum. The dossier includes an unconfirmed rumor from mid-January.
This rumor is wild.
It really is. Now, this is sourced from unnamed Spanish media chatter, not verified by major outlets, but the rumor claimed Mbappé was actively pulling strings behind the scenes.
Right.
That he wanted Arbeloa gone immediately after the Albacete loss.
Yeah.
And that he demanded the club bring back Zinedine Zidane.
Because Zidane holds the ultimate respect of the French players.
Exactly.
But the specific detail of that rumor is fascinating. Zidane would allegedly only sign a short-term deal because he reportedly already has an agreement to take over the French national team after the 2026 World Cup.
Which is just crazy timing. But whether the rumor is true or not, the fact that it is circulating in the Madrid press ecosystem tells you exactly how much perceived power Mbappé has.
Oh, absolutely.
And how inherently unstable the managerial seat is. If a manager knows his star player is allegedly texting Zidane to come take his job, how could he possibly enforce tactical discipline?
He can't.
How can he demand Mbappé track back on defense? He can't. He has zero authority. And the systemic failure at the managerial level points us directly up the staircase, to the boardroom. The rot clearly starts at the very top.
It all goes back to President Florentino Perez. He is the architect of this specific model of football. The Galactico model prioritizes commercial marketability and star power over tactical cohesion.
Let's unpack the economics of this model, because the financial stakes are staggering. This is a $200 million problem.
A very expensive problem.
You have a squad boasting Kylian Mbappé, Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham, and, according to the dossier, Trent Alexander-Arnold.
That's a lot of wages.
The combined salary of just those four players, as the dossier cheekily points out, could fund a small country's healthcare system.
Yeah.
It is an astronomical concentration of wealth and sporting capital. And for what return on investment? They haven't won a major trophy since the 2024 Intercontinental Cup, which is essentially an exhibition tournament.
Nothing to show for it.
They are failing domestically and failing in Europe. And the TNT Sports analysis points out that Florentino Perez has been making a series of unforced commercial errors lately that deeply compound the pressure on the pitch.
Because when you carry a wage bill of that magnitude, your overarching commercial vision has to be flawless.
It has to be perfect.
And Perez's vision has been highly erratic.
TNT explicitly mentions the Super League concept, which was Perez's massive baby. It completely fell flat.
Total failure.
It was supposed to be the financial savior that guaranteed immense uninterrupted revenue streams, and it collapsed. Then you have the stadium issue.
The Bernabeu.
Right. They spent a fortune renovating the iconic Santiago Bernabeu. But somehow, the renovation reportedly lacked proper soundproofing.
Which sounds like a minor architectural oversight until you look at the balance sheet of a modern superclub.
Exactly. Without soundproofing, the stadium violates local Madrid noise ordinances, meaning they cannot host lucrative stadium concerts.
Ouch.
Stadium concerts are the financial backbone of modern club infrastructure. Look at Tottenham Hotspur in London. Their stadium prints money year-round because it's a multi-use entertainment venue.
Right. They have NFL games, concerts, everything.
Madrid missed out on massive projected revenue streams because of a construction oversight. So you have a president who is losing money on his stadium, who lost face on his Super League, who is paying a record-breaking wage bill and watching his team lose to Albacete.
The pressure inside the boardroom must be absolute zero.
Oh, it has to be freezing in there.
They are financially leveraged on the assumption of sporting dominance, and they are delivering sporting mediocrity.
And into this pressure cooker drops the ultimate psychological insult. This is, for me, the most fascinating dynamic in the whole dossier.
The Dembélé situation.
Let's talk about Ousmane Dembélé, because this contrast is a knife twist. Ousmane Dembélé was Mbappe's teammate at Paris Saint-Germain.
Right.
Mbappé leaves PSG for Real Madrid, explicitly chasing the ultimate glory, chasing the Ballon d'Or, the award for the best player in the world. He leaves Dembélé behind in Paris, a team that had historically failed in Europe.
Fast forward to the 2024-25 season.
Mbappé wins absolutely nothing at Madrid. Dembélé stays at PSG. PSG finally wins the Champions League, and Ousmane Dembélé, not Kylian Mbappé, wins the 2025 Ballon d'Or.
It's incredible.
Mbappé, the golden child of French football, finishes 7th in the voting.
7th. And the contrast in the tactical mechanics of how they played that season is the critical takeaway here.
It is the ultimate irony.
Yeah.
Under manager Luis Enrique at PSG, Dembélé transformed his game entirely. He didn't just focus on flashy dribbling. The dossier specifically notes that Dembélé became a, quote, pressing monster.
A pressing monster.
He completely bought into Luis Enrique's system. He did the grueling, unglamorous, lung-busting defensive running that wins the ball back high up the pitch.
He submitted his ego to the collective structure.
Yes.
He did the exact tactical work that Mbappé admitted on that podcast he refuses to do.
Dembélé embraced being a cog in a machine. The machine ran the biggest trophy in club football, and the cog was rewarded with the highest individual honor.
It's poetic.
Meanwhile, Mbappé insisted on being the center of the universe at Madrid, admitted he defends a little less, and his team collapsed. It's like watching your former colleague win the lottery, using the exact numbers you stubbornly refuse to play.
The psychological toll that must take on a player with Mbappe's immense pride has to be heavy.
It has to be.
The dossier notes his reaction to the Ballon d'Or hasn't been published, but his demeanor at Madrid suggests the slight did not go unnoticed.
These players are fiercely competitive. Their legacies are measured in these exact awards.
Absolutely. To see a former teammate reach the absolute pinnacle by adopting the very tactical framework you consider beneath you, that is a bitter pill. And it reverberates through the Madrid locker room.
It connects perfectly back to the locker room tension, the double standard we talked about earlier. Imagine being Vinicius or Bellingham.
Yeah, put yourself in their shoes.
You are running your lungs out trying to cover the massive spaces Mbappé leaves empty when the opposition counters. You look across Europe and you see the entire football world is actively rewarding high work rate team players like Dembélé.
Exactly.
How long can a dressing room tolerate a non-pressing superstar when the blueprint for modern success so clearly requires everyone to suffer together? The players aren't stupid. They know that as long as they carry a luxury passenger out of possession, they cannot win the Champions League.
They know it. It creates a permanent fracture. The tactical reality is undeniable, even if the president refuses to acknowledge it.
So if Real Madrid is a sinking ship, both tactically and culturally, we have to return to our initial question. Why is he in Sardinia?
Right.
Why does he seem so detached from the crisis? Because, as the evidence strongly suggests, he is already looking at his next voyage. The shadow hanging over everything we've discussed is the ultimate priority, the 2026 World Cup.
The context surrounding this World Cup is massive. The tournament is taking place in the USA, Canada, and Mexico starting on June 11th.
It's around the corner.
And the French national team is entering as an absolute juggernaut.
The dossier notes they qualified with near perfection. 7 wins, 1 draw, completely unbeaten in the UEFA Group D. They are heavy favorites.
And at the helm is Didier Deschamps. This adds a crucial layer of historical drama.
Why is that?
Deschamps has officially confirmed that 2026 is his final tournament as France manager. He will not extend his contract. This is his last ride, and he is chasing an unprecedented milestone.
Right. The dossier had a specific trivia correction on this. It initially mentioned someone named Didi Victor Masopust, but then corrected itself.
Yeah, that was weird.
Deschamps is actually aiming to be the first manager ever to win 3 World Cups, surpassing Vittorio Pozzo, who won 2 with Italy back in the 1930s.
Which is wild. No manager has ever won 3.
If Deschamps pulls this off, he stands alone on the mountaintop of international management. The historical stakes for France are astronomical.
And the absolute centerpiece of Deschamps' strategy is Kylian Mbappé.
He's the guy.
He is the captain. The dossier calls him the undroppable starter. Deschamps confirmed his place in the 26-man preparatory squad back in March. We have to remember, Mbappé's World Cup pedigree is practically mythological.
It really is.
He won it in 2018 as a teenager. In 2022, he won the Golden Boot and became one of only 2 men in history to score a hat-trick in a World Cup final, alongside Jeff Hurst in 1966.
He turns into an entirely different beast when he puts on the blue shirt of France. Which brings us to the fitness gamble.
This is the tricky part.
This is where the tension between club and country becomes explosive. We know he has this current semitendinosus muscle tear.
Yeah.
But the dossier points out this is his 3rd significant injury in just 6 months. He had a knee sprain in late 2025, then a recurrence of that knee sprain, and now the hamstring.
Which raises massive legitimate questions about his physical resilience right now. His body is breaking down just weeks before the biggest tournament of his life.
And this is where we have to contrast his public statements with his reported actions.
Yeah, the PR versus reality.
Let's look at what he said versus what he's doing. Back on March 24th, he gave an interview to the Spanish outlet AS. He claimed he was 100% recovered from the knee issue.
Sure he was.
She stated, quote, "I prepared for the last 2 World Cups in the best way possible, which is to play, score goals, win titles, and fight until the last minute for my club. And this year I am going to do the same to arrive in top form."
It's the perfect PR answer. I will bleed for Madrid to prepare for France.
But the reality on the ground contradicts that entirely.
Completely.
Exactly. We have a report from the French outlet Le Parisien in May 2026. This is practically hot off the presses. They report that Mbappé is unlikely to feature in the massive El Clasico against Barcelona on May 10th.
Skipping the Clasico.
Why? Because, quote, "his primary focus has shifted to arriving at the World Cup fit. He is explicitly prioritizing his physical preservation for France over the emotional and competitive desperation of Real Madrid."
You know, you have to look at how he's utilized by the French national team versus Real Madrid to understand why he protects the national team environment so fiercely.
Okay, lay it out for me.
With France, Didier Deschamps relies on Mbappé essentially as a highly liberated left forward. But crucially, Deschamps builds a pragmatic, hardworking midfield historically. Players like Tchouaméni, Rabiot, Kanté, whose entire tactical job is to cover for Mbappé's lack of defensive pressing.
So Deschamps surrounds him with water carriers. They build a defensive fortress around his luxury status.
Exactly. And that structure works brilliantly for a 7-game international tournament where you can rely on moments of individual brilliance to win tight knockout games.
Because it's only 7 games.
Right. But as we discussed, it completely breaks Real Madrid's Galactico system over a 38-game league season when you are forcing him to share the pitch with Vinicius and Bellingham, who are not defensive water carriers.
So I have to pose the overarching question to you and to the listener. Given everything we've unpacked, the repetitive injuries, the tactical stubbornness, the trip to Sardinia, the skipping of El Clasico, is Kylian Mbappé treating Real Madrid, arguably the biggest club in the world, like a glorified pre-World Cup training camp?
Honestly, consciously or subconsciously, his actions indicate a player who is ruthlessly protecting his legacy.
Yeah.
Winning a La Liga title with Real Madrid is great for the resume, but it is ultimately just another day at the office for a club that has won it 36 times.
It's expected.
But if he leads France to a World Cup victory in North America, if he lifts that golden trophy as captain, he solidifies himself not just as a great player, but as a god of French football.
He joins the absolute pantheon.
Exactly. From a pure legacy standpoint, being 100% fit for the World Cup is infinitely more valuable to him than risking a further hamstring tear to catch Barcelona in a lost league season.
So the Sardinia trip isn't just about eating pasta. It's about mental decompression before a month of absolute physical warfare in the heat of Mexico and the U.S.
He is checking out of the Madrid sitcom and checking into the French epic.
Wow.
It is a calculated, massive risk. He is gambling his relationship with the Madrid fan base, the locker room, and potentially his future at the club on the absolute belief that a World Cup victory will rewrite the narrative and make everyone forget about a disastrous club season.
Let's take a breath and recap this incredible journey we've been on.
It's been a lot.
We started with a seemingly simple, frustrating image.
A
superstar player, injured, eating seafood in Sardinia while his team is fighting for their lives.
Right.
But what we've discovered is that this viral plate of pasta is just the tip of a massive structural iceberg. We've seen the granular mechanisms of how a brilliant player scoring 39 goals can somehow plunge his team into a tactical black hole.
A black hole so dense it swallowed a legendary man-manager like Carlo Ancelotti and chewed up a visionary tactician like Alonso in just 6 months.
We've explored the bitter irony of Ousmane Dembélé winning a Ballon d'Or by doing the exact unglamorous defensive work Mbappé refuses to do.
Ultimate contrast.
And we've realized that all this chaos, this 200 million failure, is happening while the player himself is arguably already mentally packing his bags to captain his country in the 2026 World Cup.
It is a masterful study in the absolute limits of individual talent.
So what is the final takeaway for the listener to mull over as they process all this?
Well, when you look at this entire deep dive, the Mbappé paradox, you have to ask yourself a fundamental question about the economics and tactics of modern football.
Okay.
If a player guarantees you 40 goals a season, but his mere presence on the pitch actively breaks your tactical geometry, gets your managers fired, creates a double standard that fractures your locker room, and infuriates your fan base, is he actually a valuable sporting asset?
That's the million-dollar question.
Or is he just the world's most expensive luxury tax? It is something to think about very carefully the next time you see him line up for France this summer, waiting for the rest of the team to win the ball back for him.
The world's most expensive luxury tax. What a brilliant way to frame it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the numbers, the tactical geometry, and the sheer reality of the Santiago Bernabeu's biggest headache. Keep an eye on that World Cup roster. Keep an eye on El Clasico. And we will catch you next time as we continue to explore the fascinating stories hidden just beneath the surface of the beautiful game.